Welcome to Life After 40 Conversations with Philip Blackett. This is a space for honest, thoughtful conversations about midlife, without the hype, without diagnosis, and without pressure. So if you're somewhere between 35 and 55 years old and quietly navigating questions about your energy, your identity, your work, your faith, your relationships, or your health, you're not alone. Midlife can often look stable on the outside and feel unsettled underneath. Life After 40 Conversations exist to do one thing well: to give adults in midlife the language, clarity, and calm perspective for a season that can often feel confusing, lonely, or silently overwhelming. This show exists to help you feel seen, feel steady, and less alone as you navigate the second half of life. Now, bear in mind, this is not a self help program. It's not a medical show. It's not even a motivational pep rally. What this is a meaning making space. Each episode is a grounded conversation with myself, alongside leaders, caregivers, entrepreneurs, pastors, parents, professionals, and thoughtful human beings who are living through midlife in real time, just like you and me. We reflect on lived experiences without issuing prescriptions with peer pressure. Because I believe in this deeply. Midlife is worth living and worth living well. And living it well doesn't start with pressure, it starts with perspective. So if you ever thought to yourself, why does this season feel different for me? Or why am I rethinking things that used to feel settled before? You're exactly where you're supposed to be. And I'm grateful that you're here. So let's begin today's conversation. My guest today is Dave Gulas. He co founded EZDC 3PL, a Kentucky based logistics company that provides reliable and affordable warehousing, fulfillment, and transportation services to manufacturers and e commerce companies. With a focus on personalized service, quick response times, and adaptability, EZDC 3PL aims to take the headache out of fulfillment and deliver an outstanding customer experience. Dave is also the host of the Beyond Fulfillment podcast, a weekly interview show focused on the entrepreneurial journey. Through conversations with a wide range of business owners, his podcast explores the challenges, triumphs, and lessons learned by such entrepreneurs. Dave, welcome to Life After 40 Conversations.
Hey, thank you for having me, Philip. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. I'm very excited for our conversation here today. So happy to get started. So, the first question I would share with you, Dave, is we just shared your introduction to our audience. And before the titles, before the resumes, even before the introduction, who is Dave in this season of life?
Oh, who am I in this season of life? So currently, as you mentioned, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a podcast host, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm I'm a member of the community, I'm a child of God. I'm all those things.
Excellent.
So,
And so when you think about all those different roles, is there one role in particular that I guess has more significance for you now versus others?
so I guess right now in this season here and now, I have 6 kids. And five of them are teenagers right now. So I currently have kids in seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th grade.
Wow.
So yeah, and it's certain. So yeah, we had 5 in 5 years. So ever since then, it's just been nuts, right? So we've gone through different stages of parenting to where they're all in diapers, and we got the triple stroller, and we're just chasing them around all day and exhausted, and all these different seasons. And now in the season where they're all teenagers, it's a much different way of life in terms of parenting. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's even easier. I would just say it's different to where, there's all the types of teenage challenges and issues that you deal with. But I guess at this point, being that they're all teenagers and they've all come into their own and they're all doing different things and they're on their own path and each on their own journey, it is much different in terms of just having deep conversations with them and spending time with them on different levels and really just really to getting to enjoy that and getting to see the young adults that they're becoming or they're evolving into and just it's just different, I guess. But I would say that's probably, beyond. I work a lot. I do with the company and the podcast, and I'm a health nut, so I do a lot of physical activity. But beyond that, spending a lot of time with them, whether it's just one-on-one time or going to their sports activities. They're all athletes, or wherever it may be. Just taking them places and having conversations. That's a big part of my time right now.
That's awesome. And I can definitely resonate where you're coming from. So from one father to another. So I have twin girls. They'll turn 9 literally next week from the time of us doing this show. And I, I definitely kind of heard from where you're coming from. It's like, they're not 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th grade yet. But to your point, you had your kids at a point, they're so close to each other that you kind of move through stages with multiple kids around the same time where it's just like, okay, with my 2 girls, it's like, okay, now we finished the bottle feeding. Now it's like we're done with preschool. Now we're at the point of celebrating 9 years old, 3rd grade, and it's like, I can't go back to where I used to play with them with the Amazon box and pretending that I'm packaging them up for Santa anymore because they don't fit in the box anymore. So it's almost like, to your point, it's different where it's just like you move on from a different stage and that stage is gone. And now it's like you're kind of seeing what do you have going forward from that standpoint, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and so it's funny too because I would always hear like from advice from older parents, like when the kids were real young, and then they'd be like, "Oh, enjoy that time; it goes so quick." And when you're in the moment, it doesn't seem like it's going quick. It doesn't, you know what I mean? But now
Yeah,
too, I'll see like little kids out there. I'll see like a 4-year-old, and I'll like, man, those were the days, right? And like you said, those days, they're gone now, right? You move on to the next stage, but in hindsight, it really I see what the older people were telling me all along, where it really does feel like, wow, it goes quick, and it's those days are gone.
absolutely. And so when you think about midlife for you, Dave, with all these different roles you have for you, I usually characterize midlife between 35 to 55 years old. Was there a time where you realized in that period that you first realized something had shifted for you?
I don't remember exactly when it was, but I guess it was several years ago. It was probably so I'm 46 for context. So maybe it was probably it's roughly about 5-ish years ago, maybe a little longer. But, I'd always had perfect 20/20 vision, never had to wear glasses or anything, right? And I've been in sales my whole career. I've been in front of a computer most of my working life for the last 20 plus years, right? So at a certain point, like I started to have vision issues to where now I wear glasses when I work much of the time. But I would say that was the first time where it really felt and maybe even physically too, right? Where there's a point where you don't run as fast. I used to do a lot of, like sprints working out. And then, you get to a point where you're having the achy joints and you don't do that as much and that type of thing. So all those kind of issues where certain maybe physical attributes, it's almost like they start to go on the other side of the hill. And
Mhm.
around that time, it's like something inside you feels like, yeah, this is finite, right? Like these things aren't going to last forever. And I guess it just that's an experience I had, like, realizing with some of those issues.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely had a similar moment too, where I was used to 20/20 vision, and I think I'd still do to a certain degree, but now it's just like I used to see something like 40 feet away, and I could tell you what it said. Like even I'm looking outside right now, and I could read like there's like a home services van out in the street, and I could read not just the main headline as far as the company name, I could read like where it's saying like you know licensed and insured, right? Like in like little text. And it messed me up inside when I got to the point where licensed and insured wasn't so visible for me as it used to be. And I think even in that sense too, just coming to grips with, like you said before, it's just like things are finite. Things we were enjoying and we might have taken it for granted when we were much younger. Like we get to a point where something that came off very easy for us to do might not be the case going forward, you know?
Yeah.
And so when you think about that, was there anything that used to work for you during this period that suddenly didn't anymore?
Used to work well, I mean, I would just say even with diet, and I guess it's probably a good thing too, where, in your early 20s and maybe even 30s, right? Like, I feel like you could get away with eating a certain way or maybe not sleeping as much and living a certain way, and it wouldn't affect you as much to where as you get in those upper ages too, right? Like the metabolism naturally slows down and um, it's all you have to be much if you really want to be healthy in your later years, you have to be much more intentional about the way that you live, what you put into your body. And so that's actually I guess I feel like I've turned that into a positive to where I live a much healthier, cleaner life today than I ever have. And part of that is by necessity to where I don't want to not be healthy and I don't want to not feel good and vibrant throughout the day. So I'm very intentional about my routine and what I put into my body and my sleep habits and all those things as best as possible while I'm managing all this other stuff just so I can absolutely feel my best. So in essence, yeah, I think, right, like certain, I guess even the way of life that of a younger person, you have to adjust that when you get into the midlife years if you really want to continue to feel your best, I think.
Yep. No, I agree with you. What would you say surprised you the most about midlife for you?
What surprised me the most? Yeah, I it's hard to answer. Like I don't know. So I even though I'm in the midst of what I'm literally in the middle of what how you define midlife, I mean,
Mhm.
I feel like I guess I think what I would say was surprising me the most is, when you're younger, like let's just say when I was 21, if if you said to me, "Well, what's life going to be like when you're 50?" Right?
Mhm.
At that time I would have thought, "Wow, that's 50's old." Right? I probably would have thought, but where now, like, I even though I'm 46 and we just talked about the stuff with the vision and different attributes and whatnot, I still feel like, man, I've got so much time left,
Mm.
right? I still feel like, and I see that too, right? I see that with a lot of people I deal with in business too, right? Are much older than me and they're still, I told this story on a different show. I've got a good friend and a business colleague that I think he's 74. And I mean, he's running circles around most people in terms of he's excited to go to work every day. His company is thriving. He was just telling me about this investment that he made a couple years ago, and now they're looking to get acquired for a big number. And he's like, "Nah, we're going to hold out and keep growing this thing and sell it a few years later." And I mean, he's just so vibrant and into what he does and so sharp mentally. And he's 30 years older than me almost,
Oh, wow.
right? So, I mean, it's just so I look at that and I just still I think like I have so much time left that I just wanna
Mhm.
continue, being my best, doing my best. And so I think that would be the biggest thing is like when you're young, I guess at least when I was young, I didn't really realize how much time I had, despite the changes and all that kind of stuff. To where now I feel like I've still got so much time left.
That's really enlightening too, because you're thinking to yourself, like 70, when I retire by then, like, why am I still working? And that's a great example of not only someone that's working, sounds like because he wants to, but also because he's like excited, is like to do what he's doing, maybe golf courses and Mai Tais, happy hours. It's just like that's not him. That's not the retirement life. He wants to keep doing what he's doing. That's really encouraging to have something you love and you keep doing it even at post retirement age.
Yeah, and it's interesting. So I'll go off a little bit of a tangent here, but so I have this podcast where I interview a wide variety of entrepreneurs. But I interviewed a woman a little while back where she wrote a book. Um, the title of the book is escaping me, but it's basically challenging the concept of retirement. So she
Mhm.
basically said she worked really hard in corporate and she retired at like early 50s, right?
Mm.
She achieved the American dream. And so she went off and lived the traditional retired life. And she said she was miserable. Was bored. And she said it's like a social construct. So a couple
Mhm.
years into it, she stopped. She started a business. She wrote a book. Now she's on this book tour and she's telling people that there's no reason you can't earn more than ever in your 60s and start a business and learn new things and be involved and be an active participant in society. And she's really big and talking about it's not about not working, it's about doing work that's meaningful that you really enjoy, and she's encouraging everyone to basically get on that path because she says it leads to a much more happy, productive, fulfilled life. So, just as an example, and I'm 100% into that, meaning, right, like there's nothing wrong with doing living how you want to live, but meaningful work is a very really fulfilling part of life that's important.
Yeah. I think 2 key takeaways that came off of what you just shared, Dave, was 1, are we at a point where maybe it is a good time to rethink how we look at retirement? Because I keep hearing of so many examples where people, maybe like in business wise, right? Like entrepreneurs that sell their company for a huge amount of money and they're like, man, I'm set. I'm done. I'm gonna enjoy the good life. I'm good. And like 2 weeks of like jet setting, going from one hotel to another, one golf course to another, one bar to another, one party to another, they feel like something's missing. And oftentimes when I hear those stories, they say like what's missing was like the thrill of adventure of starting something, of going through the ups and downs of building something significant. And I miss that. And I often find people in those situations get back into business, maybe starting something new, maybe a different industry with a different company or their own company, because they just miss it, just like the guy you mentioned before. And so I almost think to myself too, like, wouldn't it be kind of interesting to kind of think of retirement or just the concept of like an extended vacation where it's just like oftentimes it seems like people are really stressed with what they're doing day to day. If they had like an extended vacation where they could pivot to something different when they get to retirement age, or see how they can find meaningful work now. So it doesn't feel like you have to try to retire and get away from it. If you find what you're looking for that really excites you, like you said before, Dave, then maybe people get to a point where it's like, yeah, I love this so much. I can see myself doing this even beyond 65.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And so was there anything about midlife for you, Dave, that was there something about it that essentially there was something that it forced you to stop ignoring about yourself or your life? And what changed once you paid more attention to that thing?
Something I was forced to stop ignoring. Um, Yeah, I can't think of anything that I was forced to stop, ignore. I mean, again, we talked about health again, where I think that's just, and I guess so. What year was it? It would have been early 40s. I guess you could say. I mean, when COVID hit too, and we were forced to kind of lock down and all that. I remember I wasn't at a great point in my in my health to where I really started taking it a lot more seriously. And because we had so much time, I just started walking a lot, and that kind of led into just getting all those aspects of my health like locked in. And then I went and bought a bike, because everything was shut down and whatever. And I remember, and so my kids would have been, they were young enough to where we had a lot of fun going on bike rides. So I remember that whole summer too. I was constantly going on bike rides with my kids, right? And I had just because there was nothing to do, right? Other than hang out and be outside and that type of thing, right? So
Mhm.
I remember that. So I guess yeah, I would just say just health in general too. And I remember too during that time too, I started meditating to where that was really big too, and just to, I guess, getting my nervous system really in check, and to, I didn't lose my temper like I used to, and all that type of thing. So I guess I don't know that it necessarily midlife for maybe it did, and I just didn't even realize it. But I remember all those things kind of synergistically work together to where I feel like now, years later, I've got all those habits kind of dialed in consistently, and I feel better than ever, despite the fact that you know, I'm uh, I'm as old as I've ever been. you
That's
know.
true too. Absolutely. So I think kind of picking up on what you mentioned before, where even like more focus on your health and how important that's been to you now as of recently. I'm not sure what you were doing before you came to that realization to look more at, improving your health and making sure you're in the best place you are health wise. But I'm curious, what do you think it would have cost you if you hadn't gotten to that realization point that now's a good time for you to look more into your health and invest more in your health and wellness at this stage?
Well, I mean, it's hard to, well, actually, there was a point in time where I was very overweight, right? And it was years before that, and I guess yeah, it's hard to imagine now continuing on that path, right? But then sometimes, right, you get in a rut and life goes on, and you have obligations, responsibilities, you have a schedule, and if I mean, it's it's easy to go down that path if you're really not intentional about about doing something else. So I guess that would have cost me a lot, right? Because I truly believe that uh your health, like being in good physical condition, makes every part of your life better. So
Mhm.
I wouldn't have wanted to live in a way where I was eating poor food all the time and I wasn't exercising. And then I can only imagine, right? Like if I had gone down that path and lived that way day to day, I would feel terrible. And I probably would not be happy with myself, and I wouldn't be capable even of what I'm doing now with the business and the podcast and the schedule and all this kind of stuff. So I yeah, that would have cost me a lot for sure.
Mhm. And so when you think about where things are now for you, thankful that you didn't make that decision to go down the way things have been before and prioritizing your health and, enjoying the time with your growing up kids now. Um, what would you say are some of the beliefs, the habits or rhythms of yours that have now become non-negotiable for you?
Yeah, well, so again, how like, movement every day, right? I start my day with a workout, so that's really a non-negotiable for me. Um, and just really enjoying what I do, right? So I mean, I'm fortunate to be doing something that I love. And I've been in sales my whole adult life. I've always kind of naturally gravitated towards sales as a career, and now I'm getting to sell something I helped to create, which, right, what could be better than that? And even the podcast too is a form of sales, just in terms of growing that audience and everything involved with that. So yeah, just like like I see people, right, that are maybe in a job or a career that they don't like, and they're complaining about it, and again, right, we all have to make a living, but it's like, uh, I'm just fortunate that I do work that I love, and that I'm happy with that, and I have flexibility in my schedule, right? Granted, I work a lot, but I can be there. After we wrap up this recording, I'm going to my daughter's volleyball game, right? And I know not all parents have the flexibility to even do that, right? So I'm blessed to be able to do that. Um, and just I forgot what even the question was.
Well, we
So-
were talking about like non-negotiables, and I think you covered it.
yeah.
Just like, what a movement, appreciation for time with family, and making that more of a priority. Anything else that comes top of mind for you?
Um, just what's even the word? I guess self-care even, right? Like
Hmm.
I've been doing yoga about the last 9 months or so, right? And that's become a big part of my life too. And just get deepening into that practice and understanding that, and all the benefits, the health benefits of something like that. So just taking time for you, regardless of the priorities and everything else, is kind of like they say, like when you're on an airplane, right? Is put your mask on first before you help someone else, right? It's
Right.
just that concept too of always make sure that you're taking care of you, so you can be the best version of yourself to take care of everyone else that you need to.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. We talk about that a lot at Life After 40, that, really debunking the myth that self care is selfish. Because to your point, by taking better care of yourself, you're better able to take better care of the people you love for a much longer time. So, Dave, when we think about where things are at this point, one of the big words we really can go off of here is thriving. And love to get your perspective here. What does thriving look like for you now?
I mean, well, first and foremost, it's just being happy, right? Like we try to articulate this the right way, but it's like, there's such a wide variety of, I mean, there's 8 billion people on the planet, right? And, you'll hear stories of, people that have nothing but a hut somewhere, and yet they feel good and they're as happy as ever. And then I'm sure we all know, maybe, I've known some very wealthy people that, I mean, I was like, wow, this guy is like the most miserable guy I've ever met in my life, right? And so you see a wide spectrum where, um, it's not about what you have, but it's about how you feel about what you have. So it's like feeling good, being happy, having gratitude wherever you're at. Um, that to me is thriving. And then obviously being able to do meaningful work and make an impact with what you're doing. um, and I mean, again, everyone wants to live a different, it's a wide variety of way people want to live. But I mean, I love being a father. I love being involved with my kids. I love the work I do. I love to be healthy, right? And I'm curious. I love to learn new things, and I'm excited about the future. So I mean, I guess to me, thriving first and foremost is just being happy, right?
Hmm.
And and again, making a positive contribution to the world, whatever that looks like for you.
Absolutely. So, Dave, this has been really helpful. I've definitely taken a lot of notes just listening to what you're saying thus far in the conversation. I'm sure a lot of people listening and watching us have done something similar. And for those that are watching or listening to our conversation now, and he or she might be in a position that they feel pretty drained, might be quietly drifting through midlife or even burnt out. What would you want to say to that person right now?
Well, yeah, if anyone is feeling like that, I would say, go within in terms of the answers with is within, right? Like if you are feeling like that, I would definitely say take some time, get in a quiet place and really go within and really, focus on introspection and really what all, and listen for that voice within in terms of maybe what's causing you to feel that way, or maybe what needs to change, or what your next move should be, or whatever. But it's like I would encourage that because we live in such a noisy world. There's constant stimulation around us. There's this 24/7 um technology cycle that's everywhere. So I mean, but again, right? We're all connected to that source of life within us. So it's like I would take time to listen to that voice within to really understand why you're feeling the way you do, what that means for you, or what you should do with that, and what your next move should be. And yeah, particularly especially around midlife when all these changes are taking place, and like you said, it can feel uneasy, and all this stuff's happening. That's what I would recommend.
That makes sense. And that's helpful. Thank you for sharing that. And so, as we conclude this conversation, Dave, for those people that are listening or watching that really resonate with what you've been talking to us about so far and want to follow you on the journey you're on to learn more about you and your work and even your podcast as well, how can they best follow you from here? How can they best connect with you after this conversation?
Best way is LinkedIn. So that's Dave Gulas, Gulas. Shoot me a message. I'm always on there. If you happen to be an e-commerce brand and you're looking to take the headache out of fulfillment, you could check out EZDC, 3PL.com. And then if you want to hear some really cool entrepreneurial stories, you can look for the Beyond Fulfillment podcast. And we're on YouTube and then everywhere else that podcasts are heard.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Dave, for sharing that. And for those watching and listening, I hope you got some notes there that was helpful for you from what Dave shared. First and foremost, understand that, midlife is not a problem to fix. It's oftentimes a place to reflect on where you want to go from here. Some of the things that Dave talked about here was just something that maybe resonated with you that caused you to clarify what you've been trying to think about, or maybe cause you to pay more attention to. Maybe it's more focused on your health now at this point, or the focus on, hey, if you have kids, if they're not out the house already, how do we cherish the time we have left with them? Just like Dave mentioned before, any of those type of things that come up, take time to reflect on it. There's often times that can be really helpful there, because that's where real change begins. Not necessarily with urgency to act right then and there, but with awareness and just even going within, as Dave talked about. So, hope this conversation was helpful for everyone. To learn more about Life After 40, feel free to go to our website at lifeafter40.com. You're also welcome to connect with me, Philip, at philipblackett.com. And just as a friendly reminder as we close, as always, um, let this be a reminder that midlife is worth living and worth living well. So thank you so much, Dave, for being a part of our conversation here today. It was really helpful for us and everyone listening in. And thank you all for watching and listening to us here. This has been Life After 40 Conversation with Philip Blackett. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch and listen to us. Feel free to share this with someone that this episode could be helpful for. And take care, and we'll see you in the next conversation.